Hi, I'm Srinath Reddypalam, lecturer in computer engineering, Kulikutupsha Government Polytechnic. I'm going to handle the course programming in C. The subject code is 18CM205C. It is in diploma in computer engineering first year and second semester. In today's session, I am going to handle the topic on arrays. So, what is an array first? Let's see what is an array. Definition of array. Array is a collection of objects of the same type stored contiguously in memory under one name. I may be of maybe type of any kind of variable, may even be collection of arrays. So what is a array basically? Array is a collection of objects of the same type. So it can be any object, it can be string, it can be character, it can be integer, it can be something which can be considered as an object. So all those collection of objects, and those objects should be of the same type. This is what we have to remember. So objects can be mixed also. If they are mixed, then that is not called an array. But if you are having the objects of the same type, they are objects of the same category, and their type, that is nothing but data type. The data type should be same type, stored, and they should be stored contiguously in memory under one name. And they have to be stored contiguously means one after the another. And where they are stored, they are actually going to be stored in memory. So if they are of the objects of the same type and they are stored continuously in memory under one name, and all those objects, when they are combined, they should be combinedly given one name. Then that combinedly given name is nothing but an array. So array name is nothing but contiguously stored elements of the same type or objects of the same type or given one single name. That single name, we can call it as an array. And they may be type of um, any kind of variable. So they can be any type of data type. They can be integer, they can be float, they can be character, or they can be even an array type also, or they can be in data type of structure also, double also. So whatever you take, the elements, so all those elements should be contiguously stored, and they should be given one single name, and their type, the data type for them should be same. Then only they can be called as array. So array elements can be even arrays also. So you can have one array stored in another array. So then they are called with some different type, one dimensional, two dimensional, multi-dimensional, like that. For ease of access to any member of array, they are given that name. For passing to functions as a group, so if you want to pass some group of elements um, as a, uh, as one single name, you can use this array naming facility, so that you can pass the array elements to, as a arguments to these functions for ease of access to any member of array. So with these arrays you can access easily all the elements inside this particular array. So the members of array elements can be easily accessed if you have this kind of single name, where you are having several elements stored and under single name, and they are all stored contiguously. And if their data type is also similar, then you have the ease of access to any member of array elements. Let's see some examples for these array elements. We have one first example, that is integer array. Int a of 10. Here the data type, you can see the data type of this array is integer, and its name is a. A is any name. You can give your name, your any name can be given. Any name that follows the identifier rules can be given here in place of the array name. And the you can see the square brackets. Inside the square brackets, so these square brackets are called nothing but subscript, and inside this we have subscript value, that is 10. So it is telling that it is an integer array whose name is a, and the number of elements in it is 10. So the explanation follows here. An array of 10 integers, a of 0, a of 1, a of 9. So here you can see the array elements are starting from 0 and ending at the 9. So you can say total number of elements in this array is 10. by counting 0 as 1 and 1 as 2, like that if you continue up to 9 it will become 10. So total there are 10 integer elements in this integer array. Let's see the other example for a double array. Double B of 20, an array of 20 long floating numbers. So you can see here it is an array whose data type is double, and it is having um, all the numbers as floating numbers b of 20. So it is having 20 elements in it, and its data type is to double. So you can say it is double data type or long float, and name of the array is b, and the size of the array is 20. You can see the size specified in inside the square brackets after the name of the array. An array of 20 long floating point numbers, then you can say the array elements are b of 0, b of 1, b of 2, b of 3, b of 4, and so on up to b of 19. So if you count all these individual elements in this array, they will become 20. So b of 0 to b of 19 will become 20 array floating numbers. And arrays of structures, unions, pointers, etc. are also allowed. So as we already discussed, you can create arrays with different data types like integer, character, float, double, and you can also create arrays of structures, structs, unions, pointers, etc. All these data types, so whatever data types that you know, like primary data types, derived data types, and enumerated data types, all those data types you can use for creating the or declaring the arrays. And from these declarations you can come to a conclusion, that is the syntax for creating a individual array is data type followed by name of the array. For data type given, you have to give some space after that the name of the array, and you have to write the size of the array inside the square brackets, that is the size. And even you have, if you write 10 inside the suppose if you write inside the subscript, you want to declare 10 10 array elements, then your array will start from 0 and it will end at 10 minus 1, that is 9. So arrays always start with 0. The subscript will start with 0 and end at the size of the array minus 1. So by that you can say that total elements are size minus 1 plus 1. So total size of the array will become again the size that you want to declare. um, let's move to other slide. Array indexes always start at 0 in C, as I already told the arrays indexes. So you the subscript is also called index. Array indexes, they always start at 0 and end at size minus 1. Some other examples: int c of open bracket and closed bracket, and the size is not mentioned here. An array of an unknown number of integers allowable in parameter of a function. So this type of facility, this type of array declaration is allowed in arrays parameters, they when they are passed as parameters of a function. So if you want to pass an array, entire array as a parameter to a function, then you can use the type that we have seen here: int space c followed by open bracket, square bracket, and closed square bracket, and size is not mentioned here. So if you want to pass the previously discussed arrays types as parameters to some functions, then you can use this int c of a question mark, the square bracket, and open square bracket and close square bracket. So by just observing the function parameter, you can get to know the size of the array, and that size will be, if you say the size is max, then the elements inside this array can be accessed inside the function definition as a c of 0, c of 1, c of max minus 1. And you can see another example, that is for whatever arrays that we have discussed till now, they are all called single dimensional arrays, because we have specified only one index. That index is only specifying the size of the array, and it is only you are mentioning only one index, so it is called as single dimensional array. You are specifying only one dimension, so all these elements are stored like in a one dimension, and the dimension can be called either horizontal or vertical. So if you can store the all elements of this array in a vertical fashion, they are called column array, column array, or if you have stored all the elements of this array in a horizontal fashion, then in a row, then it is called as a horizontal array, or one dimensional array of a horizontal matrix, horizontal array. Now let's see the other example. Int space followed by d 10 of 20. So here it is an array which is of two dimensional. In this we can say that it is an array of double dimensional, where it is having 10 rows, and inside each 10 row you are having 20 elements. So you can say that there are 10 rows, and in each row we are having 20 elements in it. So you can say there are 10 rows and 20 columns. So if you see the explanation, an array of 10 rows, each of which is an array of 20 integers. So it is having 10 rows. The first substitute is specifying the rows in this particular array, that is integer array whose name is d, and each of which is an array of 20 integers. So inside each row you are having 20 integers. So the elements, if they are, if you want to access all these elements individually, then how can you access is d of 0 0 is the first element in this array, and d of 0 1 is the second element, d of 1 0, and d of 1 1, like that, d of 9 19, not used so often as arrays of pointers. And these are not used as arrays of pointers. They are very less often used for arrays of pointers. So if you want to store pointers in arrays, then this is not a most oftenly used one. And the one dimensional arrays are most oftenly used for the use of arrays of pointers. Array element. So what is an array element? The array element, it is used wherever a variable of the same type may be used in an expression, including arguments on left side of assignment. So what is an element? Already we have seen, every array will have some value stored in it. So whatever value is stored, those values are called array elements. So where they are basically used, they are used wherever a variable of the same type may be used, and in cases of expressions they are used. On left side of assignment also they are used. So example, so a of 3 equal to x plus y, it is an example where you are storing the result of x and y after addition into an element of your array, that is at subscript number 3. So a of 3 will be stored with result of addition of x and y, and x is equal to y minus a of 3. In this case also it is used in expression, but it is used to subtract its value from y. So whatever value that you obtain after subtracting a of 3 from y will be stored in x. This is also correct. And z equal to sine of a of I plus cos of b of I. So in this case it is used in an expression with sine function and cos function. So sine of a of I, a of I is nothing but a value at array a in subscript I. So that value is substituted in place of the parenthesis of sine of a of I, and sine of a of I is nothing but sine of integer value, some integer value. So that value will be now added with cos of b of j. So b of j is again one more integer element, array element of b. You cannot say whether it is an integer or float or something, but we can say that it is an element of arrays a and b. And b of j will give the array element of b at subscript to j. That value will be substituted in place of this cos of b of j. In place of b of j will be substituted one value, that is nothing but the value at the index j of array b, and cos of b of j will be found out, and the sine of a of I and cos of b of j will be substituted in place of these, and they will be added together, and whatever result you obtain, that will be assigned to z. So all these expressions are say true. So in this example you can observe that the array element is used in the on the left side of the assignment statement, and also on the right side of the assignment state as a expression. Inside an expression also it is used, and in some of the cases it can be used in sine functions and cos functions. Again, it is used on the left right side of the assignment. So in case of expressions it can be used for the right side, but whereas in case of the places where it is able to store some value of the results of expressions, it will be stored on the left side. Array elements in generic form. So the name the array elements can be written like this in the generic form. Array name is the name of the array, and inside the square brackets you can use a integer expression. So it can be either an integer constant or it can be an integer expression. So integer expressions will also give will also be evaluated finally to integers. So again it will give um, the value that is found at the particular result of the integer expression of your array. So array name of integer expression, the integer expression will evaluate to some integer subscript. So the array names of array name of subscript will give the value of that particular array at that particular subscript in one dimensional case. In the two dimensional also you can use the same array name of integer expression and integer expression. The same explanation of your one dimensional array can be understood for this two dimensional array. Integer expressions also will be evaluated to finally integers in the both row and row subscript and column subscript, and finally the row subscript and column subscript place will give the some position in your array, and at that particular place some value will be there that will be accessed with the help of this array name of integer expression. So same type as the underlying type of the array. So the type of this value will be nothing but the type of the array. So inside the array names array inside the array elements they will store the type of the array values only. Definition: array index, the expression between the square brackets. So what is array index? Now we are going to discuss what are all the topics that we have seen briefly in general. Now we will discuss them in specific. So what is an array index? The array index is the expression between the square brackets. As already told, integer expression, array name of integer expression. Integer expression is nothing but array index. So it is the expression that is lying between the square brackets, so it is called array index. So array index will give the value at that particular index of your array depending on the array type. It can be some type like integer, float, character, structure, array of array itself. Array can be of array type also. Now array elements where these array elements are basically going to be used. Array elements are commonly used in loops. So, so as we already know, why we require arrays. Arrays are basically required in some of the cases if you want to store values of the same type continuously. It is not possible by using the variables declaration. So if suppose if you have a array whose size is 10, you can declare 10 variables, but they all those variables, so if you are declaring, those variables will not be stored contiguously in memory. So if you want to store them contiguously, there is no facility with the help of declaration of variables. But with arrays it is possible to store all these values, 10 values in a particular memory location, that is continuous memory locations, and they can be easily accessed because the type of the depending on the type of the array, the particular array element will occupy that particular size of the data type. Suppose if you take an integer array and you want to store five integer values, so those to five integer values, it will together occupy 10 bytes because integer type of value will occupy 2 bytes in C programming. So if you want to store them continuously, you can store them at starting byte. If you suppose if your starting byte is 0, then it will occupy up to 9 by ninth byte. All these five values will be stored from 0 to ninth, and first value will be stored from 0 to 1, from no, 2 to 3 the second one will be stored, and 4 to 5 the third one will be occupying, and like that the last one will be occupying from 8 to 9. So all these can be stored contiguously, and while accessing also you can access just by one incrementation, that is by the type of the value that is stored in the array. In this case it is it is the number that is by the 2. Let's see how it is accessed commonly in loops. For I equal to 0, I less than max, I plus plus. So it is a for loop where it is going to have the elements from 0 to max. So all the elements from 0 to max are going to be stored in the array. So the size of the array will be also from max, and it will be starting from 0 to the size of the array is max minus 1. So the starting element of your array will be a of 0. At the first iteration of your for loop, I will be 0 and 0 less than max. So 0 less than max is true, and a of 0 will be 0 into 0. So in place of a of 0, 0 will be stored at the first iteration of your for loop, and your I will be incremented now. So I will become 1, and 1 less than max is true, and a of 1 equal to 1 into 1, again it will become true, and 1 less than max is true, and a of 1 is now it will be stored with 1, and now I will be incremented, I is I plus 2. So I will be again um 2, and 2 less than max is again true. If max is something greater than 2, and then I of 2 equal to 2 into 2, so a of 2 will become 4. Like that it will keeps on storing all the values up to max index. Let's see another example. Sum equal to 0 for I, j equal to 0, j less than max, j plus plus. In this case sum is initialized to 0, and array is starting from 0 to max. Again the size of the array is max only, and its index is started from 0. So up to max minus 1 values will be stored inside your array. And sum is inside the for loop you are having sum plus equal to b of j. It is a shorthand notation for assignment statement with addition. So sum equal to sum plus b of j. Sum plus equal to b of j is um, can be written as sum equal to sum plus b of j. So sum is initially 0, and b of j whatever is there in the b of j, that will be that will be fetched and is added to sum, and sum will become that. And like that it keeps on adding all the elements at that particular array. So it finds the sum of the array elements, um, um, and finally that whatever total value that is obtained is again assigned to sum back. So it is a logic that can add the all the elements of the array. In this case the array is b, and the elements are from 0 to max minus 1. One more example, for accessing the array elements for count equal to 0, RC is not equal to EOF equal to plus plus, and inside the for loop RC equal to scanf of percent LF comma ampersand A of count. So in this case is simply requesting one element to be entered from the keyboard, and if you are entering one element and that is stored at the address of count, address of count of your array A, and in this if at all if it is accessed and it is entered, then the scanf function will return some value. That if at all if the user has entered some input, then RC will become 1, and the count will be incremented. So count initially it is 0, and now it will become 1, and we are checking RC is not equal to EOF. Suppose if you have not entered any value, then RC will become EOF, and the for loop will become false. So like that it keeps on accessing all the elements, and the values are going to be stored at um, array A from 0 to some value, that is nothing but EOF. So whatever value, how many values ever you want to enter, those values you can enter. And if you don't want to enter any value into your array A, then you can simply give EOF. So if, then in that case RC will become EOF, and your for loop will terminate, and up to that the values will be stored in your array A. And it is the programmer's responsibility to avoid mm, indexing of the end of an array. So it is the programmer's responsibility to avoid indexing of the end of an array. So likely to corrupt data may cause a segmentation fault could expose system to a security hole. So if at all, if you want to terminate your array with proper indexing, then it is your the programmer's responsibility. Otherwise it will corrupt the data and it may cause segmentation fault, and it could expose system to a security problem also. C doesn't check array bonds. C basically doesn't have the facility to check array bonds. Whether indexing, what is array bonds? Whether the index points to an element within the array, it is the C. It is not the C's responsibility, but the programmer's responsibility. So whether index points to an element within the array or not, it is the responsibility of the programmer's implementation specific. So the programmer should be vigilant so that the element that is going to be stored and the element that is going to be accessed from that particular array is a valid one. If at all, if it is not valid also, the compiler will not give any array any error, but it will give incorrect values, might be high or negative. So what is array bonds? So array bonds can be beyond the end, might be high or negative before the array starts. So suppose if your array is starting from 0 and ending at 5, and the accessing should be within 0 to 5 only, including 0 and including 5 you can access the elements. So in that case the size of the array is 6, but you can access the elements beyond or after beyond the initial beyond the highest, that is maximum index, that is 5. And also you can access the element before the start, that is -1 -2, all these indexes also can be accessed, but they will give incorrect values. So the programmer should be vigilant. It is the programmer's responsibility to avoid indexing of the end of an array. It is likely to corrupt data, may cause a segmentation fault, and could expose system to a security hole. So all these things we have discussed. Now let's see uh, in what ways you can declare arrays. Declaring arrays can be static or automatic, and array size determined explicitly or implicitly. Array size may be determined at runtime also. Arrays can be declared through to the first method, that is static or automatic. Array size determined explicitly or implicitly. In this case, the size of the array can be determined explicitly or implicitly also. Array size may be determined at runtime also. So array size can be determined at runtime also using automatic only or not in textbook. Declaration of arrays outside of any function. So always static. So whenever you are going to declare arrays, so they are declared outside the function, then they are always static. So the example is it a of 13. So it is an array that is declared, and why how it is declared is it is declared outside a function, so it is a static one. So we are not worrying about the values, and we are not assigning those values also at the dynamic or runtime. We are not assigning them at the runtime or dynamic through dynamic method. So they are called static way of declaring the arrays. Example is int a of 13. Is an integer array whose name is a, and the size of the array is 13. So you can store up to 13 values. Has default class underscore size of 73. So here you can see you are declaring this variable, that is the size of the array subscript as static. It is now only 73. You cannot change this, and if you want to change, you need to redefine this class underscore size variable. So double b of class underscore size, in this case you have declared one array whose name is b, and its data type is double, and its size is 73. So you can declare up to 73 values in this particular b array. Const int n elements equal to 25. In this case you are declaring one variable, that is integer variable. It is a constant, so it is a integer constant and it is a constant integer whose name is n elements, and its value is assigned to 25. So its size is 25. Float C of n elements. So in this case you have declared one floating array whose name is C, and the number of elements in it are 25. Another example for declaring arrays is static char of 256 not visible to linker. So it is one more array whose um, it is a character array, and its size is 256, and it is static, and since it is made static, it is not visible to linker. Outside of any function also you can declare, and it is a static one. Static retains values across function calls. So what is static means? Static retains values across functions. Static data allocation. So this is the way that your static data will be allocated, and this is an advanced concept actually. Mm, when you go through the subject, that is principles of programming language, depending on the particular language, you can have different types of memory allocations. In this case we have one memory allocation strategy where we are having one array. The array is static arrays are allocated here when program is located. So your memory is going to be stored. If you are going to store if you are going to declare static arrays, they are going to be stored in the static data section of your memory section of your computer, or computer memory. Program code text will be stored in the program code will be stored in the program code section, and that is all text section. And static data will be stored in the static data section. Heap data, all our data which is dynamically allocated, will be stored in the heap data, and some of the data which is dynamic, which is also stack section, will be stored in the dynamically allocated data section also. So particular pointers, program counter and stack pointers will point the data section, and program code section. So PC is program counter, which will point to the instructions in your program. What if you are having some data declared in your particular program? Those data, depending on whether the data is static or dynamic, they will be stored in a static data section, and um, heap or stack sections of your heap segment or stack segments of your computer programs, of our computer. Now let's see how to declare arrays with the help of a program. Inside function or compound statement, usually they are declared, they are automatically declared. Void if inside that function there are no arguments passed, but inside the function definition or compound statement, that is compound statements is nothing but the statements that are written inside the open flower bracket and closed flower bracket. These are compounded by the help of these flower brackets, so they are called compound statements. So inside the function also are compound statements. If they are declared, they are usually automatic. So int a of 13 is now declared automatic. Has defined class underscore size 73 double b of inside the square bracket, we have declared class underscore size, and const int n elements equal to 25. Float C of n elements, static char d 256, function static not visible outside. So inside this particular function code itself, this character array is visible, but outside this function it is not visible. So that is the meaning of static. If you have created one static character array, then inside the function it is not visible outside the function. So all these we have discussed in the in outside the function declaration. Now we have discussed inside the function declaration. So inside the function they are local to the function inside only, so they are visible inside this function. If they are going to be accessed outside the function, they won't be accessed. For accessing them you need to pass them as parameters to some other function inside this function definition of your function f. The same explanation, automatic arrays are allocated here upon entry to block. So automatically created arrays um, will be stored in the stack section of the memory, stack segment section of our computer memory, and they are all dynamically allocated. So they are going to be accessed with the help of the stack pointer. Whereas in the previous case, if they are declared outside, they are declared inside the static data section. With the help of the static, they are created. So they are created in the static data section. Inside function or compound statements, usually they are created this. So you can see the array that is static char d of 256. So this array is allocated in static data area when program is loaded. So whenever the program is loaded, it is going to be loaded from the static data section, or that is static data area. So there are certain memory areas like stack area, heap area, static data area, and heap area. The dynamic array size determination. So we can declare the size array of the size in dynamic manner using the certain facilities that are available in compilers. So GCC supports the following: void function, other parameters and constants, double error of 2 into n. So here we have created one array whose name of the array is arr, and the array is having the subscript as 2 times n. So here whatever is the value of n, depending on that n value only, you can say the array is of some size, and the data type is particularly double, and the name of the array is arr, and its size is 2 times n. So depending on the value of n that you have passed to this function of your particular value constant int n, depending on that n only, you can say that your array is of that particular size. That is, array size is determined by evaluating an expression at runtime. So the array size is determined at the runtime by evaluating the expression inside the subscript of your array. So ARR of 2 into n by default, the value of n, if it is something like 4, then you can say that your array will become 8. Size of array will become 8. So all these values will be determined dynamically. Automatic allocation on the stack. Dynamic array, even if you declare arrays through dynamic size declaration, then also your the arrays will be automatically allocated on the stack area. And it is not in C88 ANSI standard, not in Kernighan and Ritchie. You cannot declare dynamically the size of the arrays in C88 and in K and R types of C version, developments, and it is there in part of C99. It is there in the C99 version. Now let's see how to initialize the arrays. Int f equal to 248 1632. So here we are declaring the arrays statically. So your array values are um, 5 values, and it is having the values, they are also static, they cannot be um, changed, and they are not declared dynamically. At the compilation time only, they are being allocated to the array, and they are stored in the memory of the array. 5 values are stored like 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and these values are all stored in the contiguous memory locations only. So and it is stored statically or automatic. Int b of 20 equal to 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. So here we have unspecified elements are guaranteed to be 0. So here we have specified only 5 values. So rest of the values from 0 to 4 values, indexes are only being assigned with some values like 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. All other values at the particular indices like 5, 5 to 19 will be assigned with 0. And C of 4 equal to 2, 4, 8, 16, comma 32. Here we have mentioned the size of the array as 4, but we have given 5 values. So it is array index out of bounds. So you are trying to store at a particular index, so that index is not available in the particular array, so it will give error compiler detects too many initial values, so it will give this error, too many initial values error. Into d of phi equal to 2 times n comma 4 times n 8 times n 16 times n 32 n's, automatically only array initialized to expression. So arrays will be initialized to the expressions, whereas you have to declare what is the type of the data type of the particular variable, that is n, at the at the usage of this particular array declaration at the initial, before using this particular array definition or initialization, you have to declare what is the value of n, then only this array initialization will be valid. Int e of n equal to 1. Here we have created an array whose index is an variable and initialized to only one value. GCC C99 C++ will be using this particular type of array initialization facility. Dynamically allocated array, automatically only zeroth element initialized to 1, all other elements initialized to 0. So if you are, suppose if you are declared one variable n as integer, and it is given some value 5, then the first value of that particular array e will be, that is e of 0 will be initialized to 1, all other values will be initialized to the 0 values. Implicit array size determination into days of equal to 31, 28, 31, 30, 31. So in this case we have seen, we have declared one array whose name is days, and we have not specified the size of the array, and it is an integer, and we have initialized this particular array with some values. So your compiler will count the number of values that are given in the initialization. So if you count 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12, so you can say that there are 12 values. So 12 values are 12 values are used in the initialization part of your array, days array, and the array size will be implicitly calculated to 12. As you can count the values are 12, you can say that days is an array of integer and whose size is 12. Value must be compile time constant, so values will be compile time constants should be used. Values may be runtime expressions, so you can even use runtime expressions for the initialization of your arrays also. And getting the size of implicit array, we can get the size of the arrays implicit using the size of the function. Size of operator will return the number of bytes of memory required by the operand. Example, size of int will give the number of bytes per int. Size of float will give the number of bytes per float. Size of days will give the number of bytes in array days. Number of elements in days equal to size of days by size of integer. This is the calculation or expression we can use for finding the number of elements in the days array. It must be able to be determined at compile time. Dynamically allocated arrays are not supported. So size of with parenthesis is size of the type. Size of no parenthesis means the size of the object. So we can even use the size of objects also for finding the size of the particular object also. In this particular case, we have used the object array object. So in this section, we have seen what is an array, and we have seen how we can declare the different arrays, and we have seen what is the index of array. How can we access the array elements? We can declare the arrays, and we can declare the one-dimensional arrays. How to declare the two-dimensional arrays, and how to access the elements using for loops, and how to find out the sum of the elements of the array with some for loop syntaxes or for loop examples we have seen. In the next session we will see some of the programs that discusses how to handle the accessing of the elements in the one dimensional array and two dimensional arrays, and also some of the example programs using the matrix addition, matrix subtraction, and finding the trace of the matrix matrix multiplication programs we will discuss. Thank you.